The next story we have is coming off of the impeachment from this weekend. The Democrats definitely benefited from fake news, but they also benefited from the fake news they created with the evidence that they doctored. So I don't know if you guys saw this, Will, Jordan, the tweets and the selective video. So I think everybody noticed the videos were off. They cut what Trump said. They added audio like after or in between. But more importantly, they actually showed a tweet that they totally just made. My favorite, I don't know if it was a screw up or not, was when a woman tweeted, "We're bringing the cavalry." And then was it Eric Swalwell she said she's bringing the cavalry.
That's not right.
Do you guys know what the cavalry is?
It's like a religious thing. I don't know exactly.
It's a represent. I could be wrong,
so
but
that is a reference to the hill that Jesus died on. It's a very strong religious reference, and I completely understand what she's saying there. She's like trying to bring religion into it and make it be like almost like a crusade, which also I don't really like, but I kind of understand that better.
It is an open air representation of the crucifixion of Jesus. Right. And they did bring the cross and raised it on the Capitol.
There you go.
They were bringing the Calvary. And he said cavalry as if to imply they were going to be storming the gates on horseback. They clearly didn't know what they were talking about.
Well, there's more than that. They changed the date on a tweet, right? That might seem small, but that's
the year,
well,
right?
But that wasn't in the actual trial. That was in the New York Times. But this is where the media comes in to lie to everyone once again. Check this story out from Business Insider. They say Trump lawyer accuses House managers of manipulating evidence by pointing to doctored tweets that weren't used in the impeachment trial. Did you hear that? Weren't used in the impeachment trial?
Was it in the briefing?
It was used in the impeachment trial. What happened was Swalwell recreated tweets. Why? Well, Donald Trump's account has been banned. In his recreation, an image that was shown in the New York Times had the wrong date, January 3rd, 2020. When they presented that same doctored tweet, it was actually two tweets in one graphic image. They corrected it to 2021. To say that they didn't use that simply because they altered it slightly to a certain degree is absolutely insane. Because what Trump's lawyers were saying was they added the verification badge to make it seem like Trump was quoting a public figure, probably of some prominence, telling people to show up in D.C. and to bring the cavalry. Which, the funny thing was, when he was saying that, the actual image said Calvary. Like they didn't know what it was. And I remember when this happened in the trial, I saw an actual lefty journalist say cavalry or Calvary. Does this guy not know the difference? And this was like a lefty journalist. He didn't. You know what, man? Maybe the only reason this guy got in is because Fang Fang was propping him up.
Fang.
He's still on the House Intelligence Committee for reasons.
Yes.
Intelligent.
Go back 30 years, any politician during the Cold War gets caught you slept with a Russian spy.
Yeah. That's it.
That's the end of your career. You are asked to resign by your party.
Your own party.
How can we not be demoralized when you have a guy who was aided in his campaign for office by a Chinese spy? He was sleeping with her, right?
Literally, yeah.
He was sleeping with her?
I believe so, yeah.
Those are the allegations. He won't answer specifically if he did or didn't. So some people are saying guilt by association by not even responding to
well, I don't agree with that.
Some people are saying that.
But I'd like proof. But let's just we know he was associated and working with, and she was helping his campaign. That's a fact.
I wouldn't want to see the proof. I mean,
no.
Poor Fang Fang.
Good.
You said poor Fang Fang?
Poor
really
Fang
Chinese
Fang.
spy?
She had to be with Mr. Swalwell.
That's a good point.
Yuck.
There was a Babylon Bee article.
He's the guy who farted on TV. Remember?
Yes,
election.
I mean, the man also parroted a lot of the communist Chinese government talking points throughout his career.
Shocking.
Fang was very instrumental in raising a lot of funds for his election, and the Babylon Bee article said something like Chinese spy sent to internment camp because she was forced to sleep with Eric Swalwell, chose internment camp specifically to avoid sleeping with Swalwell. So again, satirical article, but again,
that's
major
dedication.
Story should have been covered more. There should be more attention to this. There should have been at least more hearings about what actually was released, especially with him being on the Intelligence Committee hearings. But what information does China have from Eric?
Here's the point I wanted to make. Here's a guy who definitely needs to be investigated because of his association with a Chinese spy, and he's leading impeachment, presenting doctored evidence.
Yeah.
And look, there's almost no point in having the argument over the veracity or the severity of the doctored evidence, You know that the left goes, oh, it was just a verification badge. It's meaningless. And I'm like, I literally don't care. They created that image.
Try that in a federal court.
Yeah, you'll get.
Right.
They'll throw you out. They'll be like, "What do you? How dare you manufacture?"
Judge will sanction you, and you will face discipline at the bar, right? If you doctor any sort of evidence
in any way.
Yeah,
it's not just doctored. He manufactured the image. Wow. It was edited together, and the argument is, but it's because Trump's account was deleted. It doesn't matter. You can go into the archives, and the woman's tweets still exist. Instead, he just manipulated an image. That to me is mind-blowing. It shows you that this was a completely unserious trial. And then we all knew it was going to happen. Trump is acquitted. Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry, man. It is entirely demoralizing. What do we do? You know, I've talked about culture. Winning the culture war, I understand. Making movies, you know, Ben Shapiro is doing movies. We have now Gina Carano is going to be doing some with the Daily Wire. How do we deal with this?
I mean, you know, I've been thinking about this myself because, you know, I've been mostly over the last couple of years, I've been doing like opinion and commentary, and it's been, you know, it was aimed kind of towards influencing Republicans, right? Like not only, I mean, you know, defending Trump from various things that I think he was unfairly attacked, but also trying to change the Republican perspective on things like social media, big tech, free markets, et cetera. Now it's like we're confronted with this banally awful administration with its, you know, conjoined banally awful institutions like the New York Times. Like we need to report on them. They need, you know, there needs to be like really good. I mean, I think you start with media because culture is, you know, politics is downstream of culture, but we also just need really good reporting on them.
We need real journalism and real fearless journalism that's willing to challenge these major institutions. And it seems like off the top of my head, there's only one name I can think of, and it's Veritas.
They just got banned from Twitter.
I know, right? So they throw every smear in the book at James O'Keefe, and to me it's crazy. I certainly think James has a point of view. I certainly think he's, you know, right leaning or conservative. I mean, he speaks at like CPAC and stuff like that, right? But it doesn't matter to me. I don't care what your politics are. Is what you're telling me true and important? And whenever I look at, say, you know, Veritas's reporting, I take into consideration all framing. And the issue is James doesn't make opinion commentary like the New York Times does. Mm-hmm. He just publishes a video and says, here's what they said. Now, maybe you can accuse them of taking things out of context, but why should that faze me when they do it all day, every day? At the very least, their argument is James is as bad as they are, or the same as they are. There's good reporting from the Times, and I try my best to find it, and sometimes they do things like this. They do it all too often. So what?
Well, you can't trust a news outlet that's that afraid of their readers. I mean, the New York Times is terrified of their subscribers. So, like, why are we trusting anything that they're saying? You know, like, point. You're just telling these people what they want to hear because you're so afraid. And then this goes back to the culture war, too. Like, why are we losing the culture war? We're terrified of pissing people off. Like, we just need to stop being afraid of pissing everybody off.
It's the craziest thing to me. Like, since when are conservatives worried about offending Hollywood? Like, you're never going to be in those movies, dude. They hate your guts.
They hate you. They're going to hate you no matter what you say.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
That's a really good point. There was something I saw for about Fox News where I think it was it Lachlan Murdoch? Is that his name?
Yeah. That's
he said something like, we're going to be a center-right organization because the right way a news organization serves its audience is to, like, present them information that they want to hear or whatever, or they agree with, something like that. I don't know exactly what he said, but that's exactly it. We've gone from news organizations say things I don't like, but, you know, that's the news. It used to be that people trusted the news outlet, and if they heard news they didn't like, they didn't blame the news outlet for saying it. Now they do.
Yeah. I don't think all hope is lost. I think there's a reason a lot of these media companies had to turn off their comments. I think there's a reason why, you know, apps like Telegram and Signal are doing as well as they are. And just looking at the latest comments from the 60 Minutes Bill Gates interview, there's a lot of interesting comments, to say the least. And I just looked up Eric Swalwell on Twitter, and one of the first thing that comes up is a Happy Valentine's Day card with him and Fang Fang on it. So the culture there, the resistance, the people informing themselves and understanding what's going on. I think that there's more of that than we realize. On the perception of people being dumb and angry and stupid is something that is programmed in the algorithm to make us believe that's true, but I believe it's more rare than it is visible on social media.
No, I mean, you know, I'd like to push back slightly, I guess. You know, I think about, you know, I was the person who said Trump was not going to win back at the end of November, and got like the tweet that was ratioed
Yeah.
into oblivion.
20,000
replies.
All the
Amazing.
Trump supporters being like, you turncoat.
And I was right, and I mean, like they were all wrong. And
Rub it in, Will.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, if I can't brag here,
it's like that meme. You're
Yeah.
like, why are you booing? I'm right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Like, but the point being that there was a very, very strange political and like dynamic among people if you were involved in conservative politics at all, where you were walking on a tightrope in the period after the election, pre-inauguration, where if you even tried to do objective analysis that was even somewhat pessimistic, you were getting like hammered for it.
I get it. You know, a lot of these people who are supporting Trump were desperate and holding on by threads. And so they needed all the morale they could get.
Yeah.
And if a realist steps in and says, guys, it's threads, man. They're like, no, like, you know, they can't let go.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, I kept saying this, it wasn't just Trump trying to win by the numbers. It was Trump versus the machine.
Yeah.
It was an issue of, can Trump win the votes is one thing. Can Trump beat the machine through the legal process, with lawyers, with public opinion, with the entire establishment against him? That was a bigger question.
Yeah.
And in the end, the answer was no.
Yep.
However, I do think it's hilarious that even after they beat him in the election, they had to give themselves one final L. Like, they couldn't just walk away. They were like, let's try an impeachment we know won't work. Just to be losers on the way out. Give Trump the final word. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.